everyone, welcome. This is the Voice of Eve. Our topic today is peace, unity, security, and progress for Nigeria. What can women offer? Please stay tuned. We will soon be back. In our recent luncheon to celebrate the anniversary of the Voice of Eve, we considered it necessary to showcase the role of women in the collective heart's desires and aspirations of patriotic Nigerians. These are peace, unity, security, and progress of Nigeria. We stand here to declare that the unity of this nation, Nigeria, is most important to Nigerian women. In fact, it is more important to Nigerian women than to anyone else, because we are more obeying, we move around in marriage and so on and so forth, we and our daughters. In conflict, war, and violence, we suffer most the genderized aspects of war and violence, the direct and indirect burdens of pain, sorrow, and loss. Over history, Nigerian women made their great sacrifices for the unity of Nigeria, including spilling their own blood and seeing the blood of their sons and daughters also spilled in wars, civil wars, to contain this nation as one nation. Please join me as we present to you an intellectual package from our special guest, Professor Ayo Ashenua, Professor of Law of the University of Lagos. I am Dr. Violet Arene.
I consider that the issue engaging with the question of the unity of Nigeria actually is more important for women than for men. It is important for men, but it is more important for women than for men, because it has to do with citizenship. As we get more cosmopolitan and urbane, marriage is becoming increasingly less patrilocal. Patrilocal means that you are marrying outside of in the historical times, you would have lived in your father's village, and you would have married from around your father's village. Now, it is increasingly less so. We have become more urbane. We're more open. We reach out. And as we reach out, women become disproportionately at risk in a disunited Nigeria. We have probably heard about the questions about, we all know even though the Constitution says the only identity that is supposed to be important is citizenship, but underlying citizenship is indigenship, that the Constitution itself seemingly tolerates. Is not quite clear. It does not specify how indigenship should interface with citizenship. But we know that over the years, those who manipulate the systems and get to benefit from it have learned to subordinate citizenship to indigenship. Let's go very legalistic. Your schools, what's it called? Your forms in secondary school or your state. Your whatever at the start of your career when you were a miss or your state. One day out of the blues, Anambra State. Excuse me? Where exactly are you from? How did you change your citizenship? Indigenship. Did you swear to an affidavit? How did it happen? Okay, enough of problematizing. So I think I have set the foundation for why women definitely must get involved, because the impact on our lives is very significant. What has come out clear is that the world has come to accept that gender issues are critical when it comes to conflict, peace, unity, and progress. Without peace, without unity, there cannot be progress. We're just chasing shadows. If there is no peace and there is no unity, if there is no peace, investors will not come. What is clear is that there are gendered dimensions to conflict situations, forging peace. When we say gender dimensions, it means it's not just in one line, it's not just one way of thinking. On the first level, women are directly victims of violence. On the second level, women are indirect victims of violence. So when you add the direct victims and indirect victims of violence, of the effect of all this, whatever, women bear what we call a disproportionate burden of absence of peace, conflict, absence of unity, etc. There are theories that argue that women have something distinctively different to offer. Let me get a little bit academic now. But I'm going to try to simplify it. There's a school of thought that's called cultural feminism that says women, in feminism, there are those who say women and men are the same. There are those who say women and men are not the same. I want to work with the theory of those who say women and men are not the same. They do not say that women are inferior. They just say women and men are not the same. What they ask for is the authentication of different. They say, why do women have to be like men to be authentic? Why must male be the measure of female? Men are human, women are human. They are just different. The two make humanity together. So women do not need to be samed with men. Women and men are equal where difference is valued as is well valued. So that's their argument. And they claim that women are biologically, focusing more on psychology this time, and socially wired differently. Much of what you call women is actually social engineering. When the child is born, the child does not really know that he or she is woman. But you start socializing into man and woman. Very simple example, how you sit. Is always prefixed with, you know you're a woman. You know you're a girl. So woman is socially constructed. When she jumps, you know you're a girl. When the guy jumps, it's okay. When he cries, don't cry. You don't know you're a man. Men don't cry. So there's the element of social molding, that makes us the two genders. Right? I'm not going to go into whether it's conspiratorial, whether it is good, whether it is bad. Let's just put that aside. But let's just accept it as facts for the moment. Cultural feminists contend that there's the intrinsic value that distinguishes male from female is that women value connectedness. Men value autonomy. Women value connectedness. Men value autonomy, individuality. In fact, one of the advocates, one in law, did say that it is if women had been philosophers, if women had been accepted, I have some lawyer friends here, and some people who are political scientists. The political, economic, social ideologies that underpin society, even till to date, are the products of male philosophical thought, not so? Rousseau, Descartes, Hume. I don't know. Who is a parallel of theirs who's female that anybody knows? I don't know. They argue that if women had been admitted into the school of philosophizing, it is not an impossibility that a penalty, for example, such as imprisonment would never have existed. Who wants to lock anybody up? Who will think of that? Let's do the correction in society. but that because of the way men think, well, rightly or wrong, but I just throw it out, reflect on it. Some of them have gone on to say also that our concept of masculinity, what is masculinity? How do you express masculinity? You conquer. You vanquish. Huh? Isn't that? Power. Expression of power. So when there is conflict, how do men resolve conflict? If they're going to be masculine. Through physical. Let's fight it. Let's know who is right or wrong. Let's know who has power. Now, nobody is saying that that is an intrinsically bad value. But to the table, the other sex or the other gender brings a balance. Don't let's go to war. Let's talk this thing out. I don't want war. Oh, I don't want war. That is how you go and fight. They will kill you. I will be left with these 3 children. That is how you go and fight. Everything will, please, I don't want war. What cultural feminists say is that both are authentic voices. Both voices mediate themselves at the negotiating table. So cultural feminism continues to underpin the goal or the advocacy for women's increased participation in governance, in peace building, in everything. Because it is said, except you bring that other, if I may borrow the language that is very contemporary, that other set of stakeholders, that other group of stakeholders, then you really do not have every stakeholder represented. The old patriarchal approach was that men would get there and they will speak for all. Patriarchy, the head of the family, the male as the head, covering and everything. But I always argue, and feminists will argue, especially cultural feminists, you can't speak for somebody whose reality is not yours. How do you speak for somebody who cries when you don't cry? Huh? How can you ever speak for somebody who cries when you don't cry? How do you speak for somebody who goes through pregnancy when you never get pregnant? Can anybody describe what it means to multitask when simultaneously, as you're cooking, you're changing diapers, you are trying to get somebody's hands away from the fire? You know, you got eyes at the back of your head. Men also have their own authentic needs. It is more likely that the one whose reality it is, the one whose life is it, is better positioned to speak for it. So what feminists actually say is that it is important that women are allowed to participate at the peace-building initiatives. Some would ask, is it really true that women are more peaceful than men? I concede that there are women that are not as peaceful as my broad, sweeping, general statements are. I concede that there are women who are warmongers. I concede that there are women who participate in legitimate war. I concede that there are women who bear arms. You know? Empirical evidence indicates that women are overrepresented in the groups that agitate for peace. You cannot have peace if you have social injustice. You can only suppress disquiet, and you can only suppress disquiet for so long. You cannot have peace when you marginalize others, when you exclude voices. And it is a matter of time before you find some fire break out. So Politics and governance are platforms on which conflicting interests in society are mediated, and access to society's resources is determined. Women need to be involved in politics so they can bring in the voices of women, whether for women's specific concerns or for general social justice issues. Women need to be involved in politics and in governance in order to ensure, I can skip that. Arguably, women more than men have a greater stake and interest in fair, effective, and efficient delivery of social goods because of their traditional roles as caregivers and homekeepers. In my opinion, the poor situation of electricity supply in Nigeria impacts women greater. It impacts women greater. You know how much more time you spend cooking because you can't have storage. I inherited one stove. Don't forget those days, no gas, no fuel to even go and buy gas. Everything was expensive. So I inherited one stove, kerosene stove, one-face kerosene stove. That was when I understood what most women go through. You know, to cook, when you go to the market, one-face kerosene stove. When you come back, you put the pepper on. If you grind it in the market, you wait until it is done. Eh? Before you cook or you start boiling the meat. You cannot do anything else except there's power and you can plug in water for a bar. But you cannot do anything else until that one is done. So you finish the stew. God help you. How will you now have the bright idea to cook egusi now? God, you forget about that one. Okra, you just might. Then you put that one on, you wait again. Then you put on the water for the garri. Just one. Whereas if you had 4 burner cooker, you will get done in how many seconds? Then I understood what it meant. You know, when you overhear those women say, I have to wake up at 4 a.m. to cook beans, then you now understand, okay, she truly has to wake up at 4 a.m. She has to wake up at 4 a.m. to fetch water, maybe 4 buckets for her family's use before the other, to use the kitchen. Don't forget it's tenement apartment. She may not be on very good terms with some people, so she wants to get done and out of the way. Or she may be going to work. So she bears a disproportionate burden of inequitable distribution of resources, poor governance. Then she's sitting in the office, and then she suddenly remembers, oh my God, XYZ said that there is a PTA tomorrow, and they said they must bring cardboard to school. Have you ever gotten home at 8 p.m. and someone tells you have to bring cardboard to school? Okay. So you start engineering how cardboard is going to appear by 8 a.m. And God help you if you don't have resources to stash cardboards at home. Then you look for the calendar. So, essentially, the point I'm making is that if governance affects women's lives so differently, let women speak for themselves at decision-making table. No one says men can't speak, but let's just let women speak for themselves. When it affects them, it doesn't affect them through men. It affects them directly. So let women participate. And that's why we say that we need to dismantle the patriarchal structures, not war, but just to accept that women can speak for themselves directly. And now we're still pleading for 1/3 representation. But the official population statistics of Nigeria puts, I think, female population at about 51. So we're even more, yet we're literally, we still have to be begging to just have 1/3 of us speak on our behalf. I am not speaking just for women. I'm just trying to show us the inequities. You just think about it yourself. There is only one logic. It's either that we're arguing that this is power belongs to us. Forget about it. You know, it's just ours. Or it is that men still believe that they are better positioned to speak for women in public. And I think that those are the things that we need to ask ourselves. So what's an action point? A starting point for intervention can be the present proposed constitution, national conference, and also the forthcoming elections. We can start by critically examining the relevant processes, how they are designed, how well they make adequate room for women's effective participation. I go on to women must get a place at peace tables in significant numbers in their role as negotiators, mediators, signatories, and witnesses. And like I said, one is not talking about individual women who are filling in an official role. That is relevant, but not all of us here will be part of that. But all of us here can be part of groups that represent and voice women's priorities and concerns.
You will agree with me that that was a really profound and insightful exposition. And we are grateful to Professor Ayo Asenua for that. Some of our other invitees also have something to say, and you'll hear from them.
Some of the so much, fault the society have had was because a lot of women at some time were quarantined at home. The girl child was not given good education. But now I preach in universities. I notice that we have more females in every classroom than the men, more girls than more boys. So with all that put together, who knows? Tomorrow may be better than today.
There shall be equality of sexes. And if we have half of the population are women, why can't we have 10-10 nominated by government?
Voice of Eve is an experiment which appears to be working out. We needed to give women a vent and visibility, so that we don't just be talking about them in numbers as if they're just mere statistics. And as key stakeholders in the nation, Project Nigeria, we need to hear their views and also to get them involved in the serious reflections over the serious issues concerning this nation, because they are key stakeholders. And women have a penchant of social perceptiveness that can help us, and also a heart of compassion and understanding that may be lacking otherwise. And it is important that we capture them and bring them into the mainstream. And this is like mainstreaming women in articulation of issues. From all that has been said, it is clear that women have a great stake in the peace, unity, security, and progress of Nigeria. It is a collective prayer that they become a reality. Thank you for watching.